Would you consider yourself an artist? I decided to claim the title for myself at 16 years old. It feels funny saying that because we're all creative from the moment that we're born. Any parent has piles of paper evidence of that. But on that fateful day, in June of 2015, I decided I would take myself seriously. And now 10 years later, you're watching a video on my art YouTube channel. Welcome. Today we are going to take a deep dive into my personal art history and how 10 years has affected me artistically, philosophically, mentally, etc. Because yes, I am a whole 26 years old now. I had this idea a year ago to return to my parents' house and rediscover everything I deemed not good enough to take with me when I moved out. I was especially excited to find my old sketchbooks, the originals that I hadn't seen in years. For me, it was a perfect opportunity for reflection on the past 10 years and to find some hope for the next 10 years. When I did get the chance to go sort through the mess, I found more stuff than I was able to drag home, but I did accomplish the goal of finding my old sketchbooks and notebooks. When I got home, I finally got to flip through them all and then fell down a rabbit hole finding more and more art that was hiding around my own house. If you've ever looked up art advice online, you've heard the phrase, make ugly art, and boy did I, tons. I promise that is the only time in this video I'm going to call any of my work ugly. That language isn't productive, but I do want to talk about the improvement I've made in a decade. I've always been a creative person, writing fanfiction from a young age that I was too scared to share, and maladaptive daydreaming into my favorite fictional worlds. I sense a trend. Although I did write original stuff occasionally, and I did draw a little when I was young, but I fell into the typical trap of growing up. What I mean by that is as I learned how inaccurate my drawings were, the less confidence I had. So since I was convinced I didn't have the natural drawing talent, I didn't do it at all. Little me was already a perfectionist. But then strangely enough, I found my calling in sophomore geometry. We were assigned a project where we had to draw a grid over whatever image we wanted. I chose Artemis from Young Justice, and we used that to redraw the image exactly. I had a lot of fun with this assignment and it turned out well. A couple of students at my table thought I must have been in art. This put the idea in my head that I would be capable of drawing all of my favorite characters now. So I practiced the technique a few more times on my own, and once I was confident, I did my first big project. I made a very large custom DC animated series poster, and boy, finding that again was amazing. Once I was done with that project, I ended up low on motivation for a while. I was told more than once that I wasn't really drawing, but just copying the pictures, and I had other hobbies to take up my time for a while. But then the end of the school year came, and I was feeling creative in my last week. I had a now embarrassing genius idea for a DC fan comic. It was a story where 50% of the world died to an illness. This was before both Avengers Endgame and COVID-19. We're gonna ignore me being psychic because it is not relevant to this video. But this sparked something in my comic-loving soul. I realized that someone needed to make the stories I enjoyed so much. I started doing research on becoming a comic book writer, but found that artists were much more needed. And it was like a switch flipped. I could learn to draw comics, right? I can freehand this. And so, I got a sketchbook right before leaving on a trip for my cousin's graduation, and then a national park, and I got to work. I was determined to learn to draw to make this fan comic. I got partway through the drive and decided it would be better to write my own story. So I thought long and hard and created my original characters that I still have to this day, all while visiting the Glacier National Park. God, those drawings are so rough, and my parents thought my determination was crazy, but I was more inspired than I had ever been. I decided then and there that I was an artist. Since then, I've practiced most days. In high school, I was too good to join Art 1 with freshmen, so I simply practiced on my own with YouTube as my guide. I was obsessed with taking my sketchbook absolutely everywhere so I could practice. But then, with my GPA, I was able to go to whatever college I wanted, and I chose one with a great art program. I was so excited to really properly learn art, but man, I was not prepared. I have a whole video of my friends and I critiquing art school, so I'll try not to do so here too much. But I found myself struggling in my classes. I felt like I was behind the others who made such beautiful art, and I wasn't used to the comparison or attacks on my ego. I think it improved me in some ways, but hurt me in others. If you look at my art at the beginning versus end of school, you can see improvement, I'm sure. But I don't think I had any extra confidence in myself. Since graduating college, I've been hit with the truck that is adult responsibilities, so I felt like my skills were stagnating. But honestly, looking now, I think getting to experience more life alongside being able to express myself authentically has allowed more growth in the same amount of time I was in college. I was able to pinpoint what parts of my process were hurting me more than helping and adjust. And with every new irrelevant experience, I found new inspirations and lessons on myself and how I interact with the world. I found that my creativity grew with time as I became more patient, understanding, and found my values in life. When I talk about patience and understanding, I don't just mean for the people you come across, although that is important. Patience and understanding of yourself is critical for allowing space for creativity. Creativity is such a weird, uniquely human feeling. Some of us are more aware of how it pushes us than others. Us artists tend to follow it, while a businessman might hesitate to say his project proposal is particularly creative, but he did create it. I started making art to get a dream job, so for me, it was a transactional experience when I started. In school, I struggled to understand the idea that anything could be art because I had the generally expected answers in my head. Artist makes pretty piece, someone buys it, capitalism, cheers. But looking back now, it wasn't as transactional as I wanted myself to believe. I was already embracing my creative side with writing. I just found a new avenue for it. I was actually trapping myself by thinking that it was all for one goal. I was convinced to be successful and needed to have my work be popular and sold. Even though my professors tried to teach me to make them from the heart and not the wallet, I couldn't see past the massive debt I grew from the classes. I paid the school money, they gave me deadlines that I completed, and they gave me a degree. A simple, short transaction. I tried really hard to take this quick turnaround into my personal practice and rushed my way through a few years of work. I felt if I wasn't constantly creating and posting, I was wasting my education. I needed to get found yesterday. The work I was making around this time was good, but nothing to write home about. Then I had a year where my mental health was the lowest it's ever been. My output slowed down at a time that I wanted to speed up, and the quality suffered. Eventually, I just had to separate myself for a while, slow down, and heal. Then I learned something strange. As soon as my mental health improved, I felt a rush of inspiration. No specific characters or stories, I just wanted to create. I took it slow and rediscovered things I had let go of, like sketchbooks. Now I know you're like, Ellie, we've seen 1,000,001 sketchbooks in this video. What do you mean? Well, I actually didn't consistently keep one from 2020 until 2024 after I got my iPad. I quite stupidly thought I wouldn't need both. Not to mention the fact that digital art is so easy to post online. Although I still love making digital art, I think taking the time to remember something that I enjoyed so much in high school saved me. I was reunited with this love of sketchbooks, but also gave myself the space to slow down and think about what I was doing. Then, over the next months, as I let myself create whatever I wanted, I found that I was creating work that I loved. I don't know if I speak for all artists when I say this, but it's hard to like your own work. All you see are the flaws. But I've started having the confidence in my work that I need to consider myself a professional. I don't care what others think. I like this work. I'm happy. Ever since I learned these lessons, I have only seen my art grow more and more. 0 transactions involved. I still have an overarching dream to create a graphic novel one day. I've only grown more and more attached to the characters over time, but now I know that I can actually enjoy the process of making the story come to life rather than just the end result. Money, community, and satisfaction. I fully believe this will make me and those around me all enjoy the final world I create more, all because I have started to look internally for validation, not externally. I've always been scared of negative attention. I'm still scared, but I have more confidence in my abilities than ever. If I don't create my dreams now, when? I look back to little me at 16 who had a dream, and although she would be confused as to why I haven't done it yet, I do think she'd be proud of me and everything I have achieved. The future is forever a question mark, but I will always be continuing to create. Even if there are times other things take precedence, there will always be something I'm working on in the background. Someday, somehow, I will reach the point where I know I've made it. The definition of that has changed from 10 years ago. Back then, I would have said it was my story becoming famous. Now I think it's creating my own masterpiece. Cringe or not. Although you may not have started your drawing career in a math class like me, I hope that there was something you were able to get out of watching this video. If you are struggling with feeling like you aren't doing enough, just know that you are. Life creates inspiration in more ways than one, and you will find your muse and your confidence. I believe in you.